Welcome to another episode of Growth Secrets, the podcast where we deep dive into strategies and insights powering today's fastest growing companies. I'm Yannick Hayati, and in each episode, I'll expose the unique growth and marketing secrets that let these businesses thrive. Today's guest is a special one for me. I met Signe at Board of Innovation, where we basically brought the marketing engine back to life. We worked together for almost a year, and I have to say, she's an absolute marketing centipede, combining both strategic knowledge with a hands-on, roll-up-your-sleeves mentality. As a one-person marketing army, she knows how to get things done. Generating qualified leads for the studio is her main priority, and she does that by, let's wait a second, it's a lot. She's hosting and filling webinars. She's running very targeted ad campaigns. She's executing a very thorough content strategy, creating social selling content, and last but not least, she's hosting Autonomous, the world's largest event on AI-powered innovation, and there's so much more we're going to discuss today. Welcome, Signe.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Quite an introduction. If you see all the things you're doing at Board of Innovation as I think most of the time still one-person marketing army, or is the team already expanding there?
We're expanding the team a little bit, but I will say that I'm still heading up all of the activities. So
yeah, you're doing the
it's a
heavy
lot.
lifting. Yeah, I can imagine it's still a lot, and it will always be more. But maybe let's start off with a bit of a personal question. I see the renaming is going on. Maybe it's a soft renaming, but I see everyone using BOI lately. What's with that? How can you explain?
Yeah, so I know that that's maybe, I mean, it's a slight evolution from Board of Innovation, right? Like internally, we've always called it BOI or boy. Now we're just cementing that it's BOI indeed. And it's a strategic play, obviously. We're expanding our capability within AI and transformation. And so we wanted our brand to evolve with that capability change and ultimately not limiting ourselves only to innovation. Innovation is still our legacy and it's still something that we're focusing on, but we want to make sure that our brand lives and breathes all the different capabilities that we're focusing on. So yeah, that's a little bit about that.
Yeah, and do people actually respond to it? Because I think the name is, it's a bit of a given in the innovation world. I think most of the people that have a decision-making spot within a big company, they might have already heard of Board of Innovation. Do you see a change in traction or lead gen, or?
We're seeing a change in traction in terms of the new markets and areas that we're focusing on with our capabilities. So we're expanding with outside just innovation and moving into other areas of the business, and there it's definitely resonating. Of course, it comes along with the point of views and our capabilities that we have in the area. So it's so far it's been a positive. It's also not a full rebrand. I would want to stress that.
Okay. And is the full rebrand finally coming, or are they still waiting?
We'll have to wait and see on that.
Okay. To build a little bit further on that, you are moving more in the AI-powered innovation space and the autonomous innovation space. But last week, my heart was almost bleeding. I saw a webinar hosted by, I think you already know what I'm going to say. I saw a webinar hosted by Natasha and Jeff, where they were talking about the death of the marketing funnel. So what's your view on funnels these days? It was a really good webinar.
Yeah, I think the webinar is interesting, and I think it fits really well with sort of our overall approach and brand. We poke holes in a lot of things, as you will know, be it theories or frameworks or ways of working, and now it's also the marketing funnel. So the webinar, just to summarize for those who didn't watch it, was about the impact that AI agents have in the way that we do marketing now. So AI agents and the way that it's impacting consumer decision-making is really profound, and it's not enough anymore to just appeal to consumers when AI agents are actually so present, and they're only going to be more present. Yeah, there's a lot of theories out there that by this time next year, we'll have more AI agents than humans on the planet. So it's important that we market to those as well. So the webinar was about how do you incorporate that into your strategy, and what are the different tactics and things that you need to consider. It's a lot less. The way that we view it is that the funnel is a lot less static, and it needs to include things like proactive AI agents, decision-making, more dynamic campaigns, real-time feedback from consumers and synthetic consumers as well, and sort of more iterative and learning loops.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit,
yeah.
And it's a hard one for marketeers, but I wouldn't it's the death of the static funnel and the introduction of a new perpetual marketing loop, as we would call it.
Because I think you work a lot with consumer good brands, etc. So I also saw the examples from Pedigree, from PepsiCo, I think it was, that there was a dog changing, they were changing the picture of a dog whenever it was taken from the dog shelter, etc. So these are like nice use cases, but how do you apply this yourself? Do you still have like a static funnel, or are you also implementing AI pieces to the funnel of Board of Innovation?
So I think, as you said, it's more consumer facing for now. And of course, in the B2B marketing funnel, it looks a little bit differently. We're obviously already catering to AI agents. If you consider SEO, for example, that's that's an agent. And you know, I think you posted it last week or 2 weeks ago or something in relationship to Halloween, where you said one of the worst thing a marketeer can hear is that the LinkedIn algorithm changes again. That's a little bit what we're talking about here, right? Like being able to predict and react to these kind of things. So that's obviously something that we're doing, but we're also experimenting with lots of other AI tools internally. Yeah.
Can you give some examples there?
Yeah, we're using different AI tools specifically for outbound and using that to create more customized experiences with us. So of course, it's still a personal outreach, but it's more tailored to that specific person and what they've been engaging with lately, without having to do all the groundwork and all the stuff that it traditionally took to get that level of insight.
Are you talking about the tools like Clay then, or what tools are you referring to?
Yeah, that's one of the ones that we've been testing, but we're currently testing a bunch of different ones. I don't remember the names off the back of my head, but we've been testing Clay as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Clay is a powerhouse. You already mentioned the predictability of marketing and funnel. I know Phil, Board of Innovation's founder, his dream has always been like having like a sort of a predictable marketing funnel. Where are you there compared to Phil's dream? Can you already predict things, or how does it go so far? I know it was always a big thing internally.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that we're still evolving and testing. And I think also with the way that the market is changing so fast, having something so predictable where, you know, you can just pump in 2,000 euros and then you'll get this amount of leads afterwards. It's not so straightforward. And that's what we're trying to experiment, and we're trying to figure out what is the way that we can actually do it. So I wouldn't say that we're close to having a predictable marketing engine, but rather an engine that evolves with the industry for one, also our audience and the strategic capabilities.
And looking back at Board of Innovation's marketing, I think already many years ago, I think almost 10 years ago, I think one of the main success reasons or factors early on were the tools and the resources. I think they're one of the big reasons that a lot of people are signed up to Board of Innovation's mailing list still today. How do these fit in your current marketing strategy?
They're still a huge part, or I mean, the open source part of our marketing strategy is still a huge part of it. We do run more webinars than publish new tools, just because that's the medium that people are engaging with the most. As I said before, like the industry is changing a lot, and our attention spans are shortening and shortening and shortening, and we feel like webinars is a better way to capture that attention. We still publish new tools, new guides, point of views, and it's definitely still part of our strategy to be open source. And as you mentioned, that's also what people come back to us for. Sometimes we have people reaching out to us that said, yeah, 5 years ago I used your tool in a workshop and now I want to work with you. And yeah, it's both fun but also interesting to see how those tools that we developed many years ago are still being used so profoundly today.
Yeah, I think the brainstorm cards and the business model kits, I think everyone in innovation knows them. So that's it's amazing to see, like whenever you visited a big company and they have an innovation office, there was always at least something of Board of Innovation flying around there, whether it was a poster or a business model kit. That you could always find at least something. And maybe getting the conversation back to AI. Do you also use AI or bring up AI in the creation of these tools and resources, or how do you work it? Because I remember when I was there was like, the Boy innovation tools, an AI set where they could create personas, etc., based on a couple of prompts. Did you already build further on that, or what's your take there?
Yeah, so we didn't build further on that specific sort of toolkit, but we are building a lot of other very cool tools, specifically like content concepts and generators and concept engines that we're using both internally, but we're then also proposing it for our clients, and there might be somewhere out in the near future, without revealing too much, that we're going to make that available, or a version of that available to the market open source.
Okay, cool, nice. And AI, yeah, we already spoke about it. That the offering of Boyd, it related much more to autonomous innovation, synthetic users, etc. And yeah, you also last year you added a big first online conference to your marketing mix. What is the current place of that in your strategy? And yeah, do you also plan to physical events or events in real life? I'm super curious to hear that.
I think the events in real life sends a terror through my soul, because I know that it's a whole different beast to tackle. Hosting Autonomous, the summit that you're describing, is a huge undertaking that we're doing, but also something that we're super happy with. For one, it's something that really sets us ahead of competition and really puts us in the right place. From a strategic point of view, we get a lot of leads from it. We get a lot of engagement from the community, and it's a really central piece in our marketing strategy. We did the first one last year, and then I keep wanting to say that it was years ago, because it seems like so long ago, but it's just because of the way we've evolved. But it was only 1 year ago, and we're now having our third edition in January. So the goal is to have them bi-yearly, and that seems fast if you look at a company that traditionally we would be fine with doing like 1, 2, 3 big point of view pieces or big content pieces a year, and sort of using that to create smaller content pieces that we could distribute throughout the year. But now, with the way that AI is changing so fast and the impact that it has on pretty much everyone and all industries, we feel the need to do this more frequently. So the twice a year thing is probably something we're gonna keep going. But the physical events, yeah, that's a whole different kettle of fish. And also, actually, I think it's great that the digital one allows everybody from all around the world to come to it without having the cost, and also the environmental impact of flying people from around the world. Everybody can participate, network, and learn from thought leaders. So
Yeah, I agree. So basically you're saying like you're not replacing, but you're adding things to because everyone knows the BOI reports, the low touch economy report and these kind of things. I think they generate like a lot of leads structurally. These leads keep coming. But basically you say we want to add smaller things because things are moving so fast that we need to do webinars more regularly, smaller booklets, etc. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, indeed. So smaller content pieces that are, for one, faster to make, easier to consume, but also just that really taps into the trends and the things that are going on in the market now, instead of touching upon something that happened 2 months ago. That was also the success of the low touch economy, for example, coining a term right when it was relevant before it became common knowledge.
And I think during the first time we or you hosted the summit, I felt a strong need or opportunity for like an innovation community. Are you guys already tapping into that potential, or how are you handling that?
We did create a couple of different communities after the second version of the summit. So in June, it's a community that's active in peaks, as all communities are. We haven't focused our attention there just yet, just because we're doing so many other things. If I had more people on my team, I would absolutely advocate for that. But then I would probably not focus it only on innovation, but broader sort of transformation, and focus it more on AI and the future there.
I think it would be a killer strategy. I think if BOI does something like that, I can imagine like so many people subscribing to it. But of course, it's someone needs to manage it and fill it with relevant content and host events. So it's I know it's a thing on itself. I think maybe last thing on the event. With the first one, I think we had like a lot of people subscribing to it. I think the second one probably even more. Now you're doing a third one, which means that probably it results in something. how easy is it to calculate the aftermath or of an event like that? And what is the aftermath actually?
So yeah, B2B marketing funnels are never straight. It's never they see an ad for an event, they go to the event, 2 months later we sell a project to them. That's not how it works. But we have a lot more people that we're in contacts with, and it enables us to reach higher and reach into different types of markets than we were before, which leads us to do incredibly exciting work. And I unfortunately can't share that work. That's going to probably have to wait a couple of years before that is announced publicly. It's definitely measurable to do that kind of thing. One is for reach and positioning, but it's also with anything brand awareness and feel, you can definitely measure it both qualitatively but quantitatively as well. We see a huge peak of interest in all the other things that we're doing around AI throughout the year. So not just the summit, but all the other things that we're putting out there. And yeah, it's of course also leading to really good business and exciting work.
So yeah, basically it starts discussions, and you have the salespeople are much more busy, I can imagine.
Yeah, they're more busy. Yeah, indeed.
Which is always a good thing. I think you already mentioned with the event, yeah, it puts us in a different spot than the competition, and it puts us ahead of the curve a little bit. Yeah, I think over the years, a lot of companies, yeah, maybe I can even say they tried to copy Board of Innovation's marketing playbook. How do you make sure you stay ahead of these bigger or not even bigger, but other consultancies? What do you do? An event is one thing, but how do you make sure you can keep reinventing the B2B playbook?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is that we're independent and nimble as a company, which means that we don't need to go through lots of layers and weeks of approvals before we launch anything. So that can be anything from a framework to an approach to a project to a tool or a point of view. And this means two things mostly. One, we can test out things very easily and very swiftly, pivot the direction if it doesn't work, and focus harder on something if we see that it's gaining traction. And secondly, a lot of the ideas and the point of views are bottom up, so coming from the consultants and the directors who are actually doing the work, which really allows us to tap into the trends both as and also before they happen, rather than just lagging behind and only publishing something around our work or our insights years after it's done. So I think we as a company, and yeah, that's part of our culture. We're nimble and proactive and bold as well, rather than reactive to trends.
Yeah. Exactly. And what I always thought of as, yeah, maybe super difficult was creating like really strong expert content, deep dive, thought leadership content about innovation related topics, because yeah, you already mentioned it needs to come from the consultants. And I think it's something that a lot of people in your position struggle with. Like, yeah, you have so much expertise about online marketing. Yeah, you have to keep all these hats and balls in the air. But what's your process for creating great content related to the core offering? But because yeah, I know like no one else, it's super hard to also be informed on all the innovation topics as well. How do you do that?
So for one, I think our leadership are huge marketing fans as well. Love content, love to put out point of views and provoke the market. So that's one, just being super lucky to have people that believe in marketing and that want to participate. I think secondly is persistent to get the insights, stay in on all the calls, look at the different proposals and projects that we're delivering, and figuring out, okay, what are the insights that we can take from this without sharing what we're actually doing for the company or what the results are, but more looking into what are the general learnings that we can take from this and turn that into something that other people can learn from and get insights from. So yeah, two things, but in general, I think people are very open sharing their ideas and the learnings within the company.
Cool. Because no consulting and agency studio work in general, it's like very hard work. And I think a lot of people struggle there because whenever they go to a consultant or a person doing project work and they ask time to prepare something or to do something, it's always an on top for these people. I think, yeah, every shortcut there can probably help. But indeed,
Yeah, for
everyone is
sure.
open to marketing.
Yeah, there's that. And then I think also I don't ask them to write a whole article. I ask them for a couple of bullet points and then I'll take it from there. That makes their work easier.
Yeah, that makes their work easy. Yeah, especially when you have things like ChatGPT, etc. It's probably even easier. Okay. How do you embrace experimentation in your role? We already mentioned you have to keep a lot of balls in the air. Like, where does experimentation fit somewhere in the plan?
So experimentation is very much about like your classic A/B testing on emails and posts and ads and audiences and these kind of things that are more quantitative, but we also do a lot of qualitative testing. So to see what types of webinars are actually gaining traction, what should we do more of, which posts are creating the most sort of hype and provocation. And that's also a huge part of the experimentation. And as I mentioned before, because we are nimble and small, we can just sort of launch something to see if it works and then dive deeper if we feel like that's where the interest sits.
I'm gonna ask you for a recent example of a winning experiment you've done, but I can already tell you about one that I saw last week, which was super smart. I actually already stole it because it was shared in the Slack of a company I'm currently working for. But you send an email for a webinar that was starting in 15 minutes, but I wasn't subscribed for the webinar. So these are, I think, the hacks that people look for because it was super smart. But do you actually see like a lot of people still sign up then after you send that mail? Because I can imagine, for example, I didn't know about the webinar. You send the email, it's starting in 15 minutes, and I signed up and I watched the recording. So it's so simple, but it's so sneaky and smart.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we've been trying for the last 2-3 webinars. It's working super well, actually. So typically when we launch a new webinar, we send it out to the people who in our database who we think might be interested based on the different activities that they've taken and the other pieces of content they've downloaded. But that invite goes out typically 2 weeks before. And people, again, with the attention span, people can't commit to something that's more than 2 weeks out. And I don't know what it is with people, but they don't want to fill up their calendars. And so I started experimenting with this email, sending it out either just when it went live or 15 minutes before. And then it's on top of people's minds and lots of people actually subscribe to it. And for sure, not everybody is then listening in immediately, but we do see a very high rate of attendance as well to these webinars.
Cool.
So yeah, it's working.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice insight that you say like people have a short attention span and usually we send it 2 weeks upfront. I think most people do like they schedule a webinar 4, 5, 6 weeks upfront, but basically your experience says that, yeah, no need to do that. People can watch the recording. Yeah, do it as close to the webinar date itself.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Can you give us another recent example of a winning experiment?
Yes. So one is around something that we do for the summit or autonomous, because this is the third time that we're doing it. We're of course trying different strategies, different tactics each time. This time we have launched our speakers much earlier, which means that, and that's not only because I'm going on holiday for 3 weeks, but we have launched our speakers much earlier, which means that people have more insight into what are we going to learn, what are we going to talk about, and it has really ramped up the subscription. So people want to know what they're getting. Same learning from the webinars. The more practical our webinars are, the more people register and the more people connect with it afterwards. So people want practical and they want information. Yeah.
Yeah. And it helps, of course, that if you go on honeymoon for 3.5 weeks, that, yeah, you have that, you get that done before. That's also a nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Poem. We already mentioned that you have like many marketing channels to manage. What role does automation play in there? I know you guys are using Hubspot and you have like a nurturing strategy, etc. But are there any other maybe less common things that you
trying to think? Yeah, so we obviously we've talked about this briefly, but the way that we're testing different outbound tools or AI tools for outbound also helps to automate things. That's such a thing as connection requests and reaching out to people that we might want to talk to and automating more of our content campaigns so that we get our content out to the right people. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're not trying to get anything from them, but rather sharing our content and sharing our thought leadership with different automations and different strategic outbound campaigns.
And then, of course, I think big part of, or the biggest part of the automation is within HubSpot, I assume, where, I think I can imagine how many flows there will be for now. But how do you manage that? Because, I think you do all of it by yourself, right?
Yeah, so we actually have our SDRs that are also helping out with that, with our lead nurturing, but we are just implementing now a lead scoring, like using HubSpot's lead scoring to filter our audience or segment our audience into different sequences and different levels of interaction, which is going to depend, like that's going to determine what content they get served, basically.
And that's probably also the starting point on how you collaborate with salespeople, or how does that go? Because I think that's also something that a lot of B2B companies, service companies struggle with. Like, where do you, or how do you make the bridge between sales and marketing? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we have our outbound team used to be our outbound sales team. And also, I don't really like to call it outbound sales because it's not really outbound sales, but it's more of an extension of the marketing and sales activities. They're an extended arm into everything that we do from a marketing perspective, be it content or being events or different campaigns that we want to run. And they work very closely with our directors. So that means that each of those sales responsible people have an SDR that they work closely with to get the campaigns out and to get the content out and to make sure that they're nurturing and their leads, their contacts are being served the content that is most applicable to them. So there's a very close relationship between our sales and our marketing. And I think something else that's maybe unique about us is that we do very consultative selling. So that also means that the people that are actually selling in the company know what they're talking about. So it's not that I push out something for marketing that they have no idea how to sell. It's a very collaborative approach.
Yeah, I think often the one that sells it also delivers it sometimes, right? Or that's like a huge plus for every company, I would think. But I like how you approach that, and also that you say I don't like them. I don't like to call them the outbound team, because that's basically how it all started, I guess. But can you tell us a little bit more about the process there? What can other companies learn or steal from BOI? Let's call it outbound, because I know you have like a really structured process, and it's quite advanced. So
so as I said, we both run marketing specific campaigns. We can perhaps split it into two if we want to make it very practical. We're running marketing specific campaigns, which is anything related to content or the things that sort of come from a creative and strategic direction. And then there is the campaigns that are run from each of our directors and associators, directors profiles, to reach out to new people that we haven't spoken to before. And it's a mix of using nurturing from our Hubspot database, but also scraping LinkedIn Sales Navigator and using Meet Alfred to communicate and messaging through LinkedIn. And it's a pretty, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but if you look at it, it's a pretty straightforward process, right? So it's getting our content or our messaging out to the right people. So it's a matter of finding the right people, finding the right channels, messaging them on the channels where they're most likely to connect or to engage, and then iterating on that, because we see a huge difference between types of campaigns that we do and the success on the different channels. So if it's content related, it's much more successful if we do it from HubSpot, so our database. And if it's more sales and sort of engagement related topics, it's much more effective on LinkedIn. There's lots of different strategies to use there.
Again, I think, whenever people listen to this episode, everyone will probably think the same. How do they do that with like one or two people? Like all of these things, how do they do it at such a high level? But there's also like the analytics part to things. You mentioned we saw X or we saw Y. So you also analyze the data. So that's even crazier, I think. But how do you measure everything? Channels like podcasts, etc., are very hard to track. How do you bring everything together and sort of be still data driven?
So we do a monthly marketing and sales wrap up, which is basically consolidation of the things that we've put out there together with what is actually generating meetings. So we go back and see like what's generating meetings, what's generating leads, where is it coming from, which different activities. So ultimately, what is contributing to sales and what isn't contributing to sales. And then again, we stay nimble and on a monthly basis, while we of course have a sort of general marketing strategy that we follow. We focus and hone in on the things that are working in those specific industries every month.
And can you give us a couple of examples of what were the things that gave you most traction in the past months?
So definitely the webinars that we run. Most recently last week, Vincent and Phil ran a webinar on setting your AI strategy. Whenever we do something like that, setting your AI strategy, running your own AI powered sprint, things like that, it creates a huge amount of traction just because it's in the title. It's very practical and people want to know how to do it. So that always creates a lot of and meetings off the back of it. And then, of course, now we launched the summit in October, and that has also created a lot of traction and a lot of interesting conversations already before the summit has even happened.
And what are some of the tactics and channels you expect a lot from in the coming months? Do you have any big bets planned for the next year, aside from, like probably the biggest bet, which is the summit? But do you have any other things in your pipeline? Or
I'm going to keep that quiet for now. Boo.
yeah, boo.
No, I know. No, we definitely, the things that we do well and where we see the traction, the webinars, the more shorter form content and the very provocative content pieces, that's something that we're going to keep on doing. And then we have a couple of other experiments that I won't lift the veil for just yet.
Okay, yeah, then we stay tuned for that. But it's also I think your second period at BOI for now already. Yeah, like how have you seen the B2B landscape evolve or change in the past couple of years? Because suddenly there was something called AI, and I think in marketing everyone has the feeling that it's changing a lot, it's speeding up things a lot. But what are the biggest changing if you look at your own workflows?
So definitely content creation is much faster, but that also means that content creation is for everyone. And there's a lot of noise out there, far more noise than there used to be. You used to see a content piece and you would be pretty sure with some certainty that it was good and it was original. Now, a lot of the content pieces that you see out there are either copycat content or you can see immediately that it's written by a chatbot. And that, to me, as someone who's really passionate about writing as well, pains my eye to see that everybody has all of a sudden the same tone of voice and the same opinions about things. So you need to have more provocative content and more provocative point of views to really break through that noise. I think it's the same with the outbound practice. Like we started that out and that was pretty novel when we were doing it. And of course it's still working well, but there's more and more companies that are doing the same. So you have to break through the noise with something really original. Yeah, that's just the lay of the land. And then as I said before, the attention span, people's attention span is going down, down, down. You used to be able to share a report or an in-depth piece, and now people, they don't necessarily want to read. They don't want to read long posts. They want to see frameworks and tools, and they want to do screen grabs and big bold titles and things like that. So the landscape is changing quite a bit.
Are you actually also elaborating on that? Because I think the attention span, it's crazy. I also think a lot of people, they don't go to Google anymore whenever they want to look something up, but they go to platforms like TikTok, etc. Are you also heading in that direction, like doing social search, etc., or how are you embracing it?
That's something that we're doing in our project work, more using social listening as insights. We haven't done it yet for our own purposes or from in my role specifically, but we're definitely doing it for our projects, which is super interesting. And again, coming back to this point about having to serve the algorithm as marketeers, is going to be an interesting evolution in the coming months.
I think I have a couple of quick questions left. Let's call it the quick fire or something. But one of them was, what's your big bet for 2025? I think you don't want to tell us, but maybe what's your big prediction for 2025? What do you think that's gonna speed up, and what's gonna change? The biggest thing.
Oh, the biggest thing.
Or
I think, and I hope that Yeah, I think and I hope that people are going to come back to more original content pieces that's not that the AI won't create it, but that we will have more eye for the detail in terms of our tone of voice and how we talk and what our own brands are. And then I think a huge thing like the death of the marketing funnel, we're going to have to appeal more to AI agents and consider them as the key decision makers and figure out ways where we can tailor what we serve to something that's predicting our behavior, right? So that's going to be a super interesting evolution.
Okay. Then maybe another one is, what's your favorite marketing book? I think you like to read, right? Somewhere in my head it said that you read a lot, but maybe I just...
That's nice. I like to have that brand. I'm actually gonna like this is a Danish expression. I'm gonna come to the cross here. I don't actually read that much in terms of that. I listen to a lot more podcasts. I'm more
Attention,
of a
right? Yeah.
attention span again. Yeah. No, I listen to a lot of good podcasts and most recently I've been listening to Acquired. So they do deep dives into different types of businesses and how they grow. So you can have I think there's a 6-hour episode on Spotify or something, but super interesting to learn how these businesses grow and especially startups becoming huge industry titans. I think that's my favorite one.
Okay, cool. And then what's your favorite marketing tool?
HubSpot.
No, don't say HubSpot. It's too, you can't say HubSpot. Give us something else.
But I love HubSpot.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
I'm a huge HubSpot fan just because it's also evolving a lot with AI and offering lots of different new tools and integrations. So I'm gonna stick to it. That's still my
they're
favorite.
promoting something called Breeze. Are you using it? What is it? You have to buy credits. Well, can you tell the listeners a bit more about what that is then, for example?
I don't know what Breeze is yet because we haven't been trying the beta version, but we have to definitely test that out.
Yeah, they're really promoting it. So but then maybe to wrap things up, maybe a final question from my side is that what closing advice would you give to growth and maybe marketers in general that are just starting out? What would you advise these people?
Good question. I think my advice would be to, one, find yourself a company that believes in marketing. I've been in companies before where there has been not little belief in marketing, but less of an investment, both from a time and also money perspective. And then understand that specifically the B2B marketing funnel is not straightforward. That's often a thing that people misunderstand when they go into marketing, or the big dream of saying, okay, we pump in this much amount of money, then there's going to be this outcome. That's just not the way things work, and specifically not now with the way that AI and our whole behavior is changing. So that's an important thing to understand.
So basically, we have our title for this episode, The Death of the Marketing Funnel. And at least we know there will be some search volume that you do webinars there, then people will there will be a little bit of search volume at least. So that's something we already know. No,
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
from my side, I think that's it. Unless you have some closing things to mention that then I think we're done and we can almost go and enjoy the rest of our day.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Thanks so much for making time for this. I know you're super busy. So thanks for taking the time and talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.